Hi, Rosalind. Sorry, you can't see us right now. There you go. You as a co-host, so you're able to share your screen for your presentation. You should be good there.
Okay, thank you.
Also, just have you turn off your camera until it's your turn to go. If that's all right. Thank you.
Excuse me. One of my coworkers is unable to join.
Uh,
Ian
she try?
Morrow. I see my name is coming up as Ian Morrow, so I will rename myself.
Just his link then.
Okay, so I'm using his link. So is there a separate link for him?
This would have been his link. Only one person can log on with the link, so you would have to forward him the link.
Okay. Okay, I will forward him this link. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine at 5 o'clock on August 13, 2025 in the council chambers at the Municipal Administration Center. Roll call this evening, Deputy Mayor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Blackwell.
Present.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Present.
Councillor Prenger.
Present.
Councillor Steinoff Gray.
Present.
Councillor Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Williams.
Present.
And I'd like to recognize the staff and public members that we have in the gallery this evening as well. Councillor Blackwell, please.
As representatives of the municipality, we have been entrusted to act as stewards for the community in which we live and work. We recognize the importance of learning the full history of this land, our place within its long story, and our responsibility as treaty people. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We deeply appreciate the contributions that Indigenous people have made and continue to make, both in caring for this land and strengthening our communities and respective nations. As a public service organization, we are committed to actions that move us towards a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis.
Are there any amendments, additions, or deletions to or from the agenda proposed by council members this evening? Then I'd like to remind councillors to disclose any pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof, either now or as it arises during the council meeting. And we need a mover and seconder that the minutes of the council meeting held July 23, 2025 be adopted as printed, moved by councillors Blackwell and Kavanaugh. All in favor? It's carried. Moving on to delegations and presentations, and I'd like to welcome Inspector Keegan Wilcox here this evening from the Ontario Provincial Police to provide an update. Welcome, Inspector.
Can you hear me now? There we go. Good evening, Council, and thank you, Mayor. So through you, I'm going to provide a presentation of some 2024 statistics and some detachment updates to keep Council informed. So we really appreciate the opportunity for the invitation today so that we can highlight some of the great work that's happening in our detachment and in our communities. I'm going to start off with providing a brief overview of our strategic plan. And this slide here, it just highlights the way that we work and basically what we focus on. It's our people, our work, and our communities. So for our people, we focus on a healthy and resilient OPP. Our work, our response, that we're responsive as an organization and that we're evolving. And then our communities, we really look for that collaborative and progressive approach to community safety and well-being. The agenda for this brief presentation is going to be a high-level overview of crime statistics, traffic statistics, calls for service, and then some overall detachment updates. In the area of crime statistics, I will provide a brief overview, but I'm not going to go through them each individually. The important ones to highlight, though, is sexual offenses. We did see a slight increase from 2023. We went from 51 occurrences in the previous year to 62 in this current 2024 calendar year. The challenges here is we have seen an increase in this crime year over year steadily for the last number of years, and it is something that we continue to investigate as professionally as we can and provide that input where we can. The next area is assaults and violent offenses and firearm-related offenses. They couple these together. These offenses aren't to suggest that there's firearms involved in every single occurrence. It's just the ways that the statistics are coupled together. Generally, these are assaults. They've been relatively steady over the last 3 calendar years, so 164 to 163 in 2024. And we're showing in that area 92% clearance rate. Offenses resulting in the deprivation of freedom. What that is forcible confinement is what we call it within the criminal code. And that forcible confinement is an occurrence where somebody's free will has been taken away from them and they're stuck in a place and they're not permitted to leave. We did see a reduction in robberies year over year, which is very positive for the community. We went from 4 in 2022 down to 1 this calendar year. So 1 robbery in our entire detachment area over 2024 is very positive. Statistic totals for the year, we are down slightly, about 20 occurrences from 2022 and only 1 from the previous year. Important highlights in this area as well is our communication and our relationship with victim services. It's important to highlight that we made 932 offers and referrals to victims in the community to victim services. And also, it's important to highlight that we've added a domestic abuse issues investigator. So that's a detective constable that works full-time out of our detachment, and he supports domestic violence occurrences and investigations to ensure that investigative excellence for the detachment. Moving on to property crimes. This is an area that has an impact on our community safety and well-being, and it is important that we highlight it for us here today. One of the most positive parts of this report here is the reduction in break and enters. We went from 103 occurrences in 2022 down to 74 occurrences in 2024. So that shows about a 25% decrease in calls for service in that area. We have seen relatively standard responses in most other areas. The most significant increase that we did see in this property crime section is frauds. Frauds has a big impact on our communities, especially some of our vulnerable population. And our community engagement officer is very engaged in providing that public education. These internet scams, phone scams, all of these variety of frauds that our community experiences are very challenging to investigate. So that education is often our best approach in these situations. Moving into drug crimes, through 2024, we had 13 drug trafficking investigations that were completed and 26 possession investigations that were completed. Our officers laid 86 Controlled Drugs and Substance Act charges in 2024, which is up from just 31 charges in the previous year. So our frontline officers and our community street crime unit were very active, engaged in those types of investigations to deter that criminal activity in our communities. This next section is what we call other criminal code offenses. It deals with a variety of gaming and betting, offensive weapons, and other criminal code offenses. These are generally some of your more obscure criminal code charges that wouldn't fit within the property crime or the violent crime indexes. We responded to 158 occurrences of other criminal code. This would be your common breach or bail violation occurrences that we investigate. And we're showing a relatively slight decrease from the previous year, but a significant decrease from 2022. Our next section here deals with our traffic statistics. So I know that this is very important to our communities, and it highlights some of the work that our officers do. So we had this next section deals with motor vehicle collisions. We did see, unfortunately, 5 fatal motor vehicle collisions in our detachment area through 2024. That is a 45% decrease from the previous years. However, it is still 5 too many. Our officers remain committed on the Big Four traffic enforcement to try to prevent fatalities and personal injuries on our highways, and are active in trying to deter these causal factors. We did see 49 non-fatal injury motor vehicle collisions, so that's when somebody's injured but not killed. Property damage collisions was up considerably to 784, but relatively consistent with 2022 data. So that is something that we're going to keep our eye on as we move through 2025, because any collision has the potential to cause injury or fatality. Alcohol-related collisions are down slightly to 2022, and I think it's important to highlight that although we had 5 collisions, there were 6 people killed in fatal collisions in 2022. Further statistics to talk about is our officers conducted 876 ride checks, supporting enforcement and deterrence for impaired driving. They also laid 127 criminal code impaired driving charges, which has a huge impact on our enforcement efforts to keep people safe on the highway. Recently, we've started to gather statistics over the last couple of years on warnings. So our officers now have the ability to issue a warning ticket to the motoring public if they are committing an offense rather than laying a charge. This is basically the education type approach. We did see over 2024, 2,033 warnings issued to the motoring public, and this is up slightly, about 12% from the previous year. The table below highlights our big four. So these are big four contributing factors to fatal and personal injury motor vehicle collisions: distracted driving, impaired driving, seatbelt, and speeding. So it gives a high level overview of the enforcement action that we've taken. So a total of 1,739 speed related charges were laid in 2024. 11 distracted driving charges and 127 impaired charges and 38 seatbelt charges. This next slide here is our top 10 calls for service. So this is data that's highlighted on what we do in the community on a daily basis. It shows you what we're the busiest responding to proactively and responsively to the community. So number one on that list is e-ticket occurrences. So that's officers conducting traffic stops and either issuing tickets or warnings. The next section is motor vehicle collisions, moving into community services. I'm very glad to see this community services occurrence sitting in number 3. It shows that our officers are very engaged in that community involvement and that community engagement, having that interaction in positive ways. Number 4 is ride checks, followed by traffic complaints, and then police informations, and then property related suspicious persons, traffic enforcement, and the only criminal code occurrence that's on the top 10 is mischiefs. I wanted to provide a brief detachment update on our mental health occurrences. So our officers continue to work in partnership with the Mobile Crisis Response Team. So MCERT is a program that's a collaboration between the South Bruce Detachment, the Grey Bruce Detachment, and the Bright Shores Health System. In October of 2024, our detachment MCERT nurse, Julie Robinson, retired. She was instrumental in the success of the MCERT program since its inception. Following Julie's retirement, we welcomed a new MCERT nurse to the detachment, Emily Moss. Emily's been a great addition to the team and does fantastic work for us. In 2024, our officers responded to 418 mental health and addictions related calls for service, and our MCERT nurse supported officers in 52% of those occurrences. So this is a fantastic statistic to show the value in this program. This is a nurse who's meeting people in the community when they're in need at the right place at the right time. The next brief slide is our people. So it's just to highlight that our officers and civilian staff at the OPP detachment in South Bruce remain committed to public safety in our detachment area and within the province of Ontario. We strive to support all of our community members in achieving their professional and personal best. So a couple photos there to highlight one of the officers being recognized, an officer doing some speed enforcement, some officers participating in our annual fitness pin, and an officer utilizing the e-bike on the pier here in Kincardine. I'm going to provide a brief overview of a couple of highlighted calls for service that we responded to with some positive outcomes in the community. The first one is from the 26th of March, when our community street crime unit successfully concluded a lengthy property crime investigation in Brockton. As a result, approximately $143,000 in stolen property was recovered. An individual was arrested and charged for their actions in this occurrence. The photos just show a snapshot of some of the property that had been stolen and recovered by our officers. This is a very concerning occurrence that happened here in Kincardine. So on the 3rd of March, officers responded to reports of a male brandishing a handgun outside of a business in downtown Kincardine. With the support of the South Bruce OPP Major Crime Unit and West Region TRU and our emergency response team, a male was arrested for his actions, and officers seized imitation firearms as a result of the investigation. We highlighted those imitation firearms on our social media pages to show exactly what they look like, and they are replicas, but they do appear to be legitimate and real. This is a proactive traffic stop from a traffic enforcement occurrence in Erin Eldersley. So officers determined 3 individuals in a vehicle that they'd stopped were in contravention of previous release conditions. The individuals were arrested for breaching their conditions, and search incident to arrest officers located $36,000 in illicit drugs. They were charged as well. This is an occurrence in Brockton. On the 11th of September, we were investigating an assault with a weapon investigation, and a search warrant was executed. During that execution, officers discovered a clandestine drug laboratory. Specialty units within the OPP in collaboration with assisting agencies safely dismantled the lab. During this investigation, officers seized $25,000 of controlled substances and a .22 caliber handgun. So this is an important investigation. Although that it occurred in Brockton, it highlights some of the great work that our officers are doing. The next part's about our community. This is really important work for us. We had a very busy year in 2024. Our officers remained committed to working with our communities to achieve public safety. Officers attended and supported countless community events and supported larger community events, which included the Paisley Reunion, Cargill Reunion, Elmwood Reunion, and Lucknow Music in the Fields. To highlight some of the more local initiatives, we engaged with grades 3 to 6 youth at the Team Unbreakable Challenge at Elgin Market. And we supported the Kincardine area schools with physical fitness program that helps keep the body active and improves mental health. We interacted with community at the Walkerton Summer Street Festival, where we engaged with hundreds of community members. We supported a safe 2024 prom season for all of our area secondary schools, where officers engaged with the youth and community partners, including fire and paramedic, to do ride checks and provided some traffic safety key messaging. We always participate in the Lots of Socks initiative in Kincardine, and we support awareness with World Down Syndrome Day. We had a creative windows display set up where we had hundreds of people from the community join at different times to check out the display. The other thing to touch on for community engagement is the Power Assist bikes that were added to our fleet in 2024, and a thank you to the municipality of Kincardine for that support through our former police services board. Those pedal assist bikes have supported our officers in community engagement. They use them very actively in the summertime through the busy tourists downtown, on the beaches and the piers, to make sure that they have that interaction with the community in positive ways. Detachment staffing update. So it's been busy with new recruits. In 2024, we welcomed a total of 10 new recruits to the South Bruce OPP detachment. That's a lot of young police officers that we're training that are there doing fantastic work. And they've been assigned to both of our detachments between Walkerton and Kincardine. And a welcome to Staff Sergeant Lynn McNichol. She joined us in June of this year as our permanent detachment manager at the South Bruce OPP detachment. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Pending any questions or comments.
Thank you, Inspector. Any questions for clarity from council members? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I noticed that there was no limitations on your timing for your delegation. And I'm not surprised by that, Mayor. To anyone who has a gun, you might want to, change your attitude. Anyways, I just want to ask you two questions, Inspector. Statistics that we were given was basically for the whole detachment.
Correct.
Do we have statistics just for the Kincardine area itself?
Yes. So there are statistics that could be drilled down for the entire Kincardine area, but it isn't presented in the form of an annual general report.
Good. Maybe you can give that to maybe our clerk or somebody, and I'd be interested to see what's going on in our own little community. And with these 10 new recruits, during the pandemic, we were facing a lot of problems. OPPs were facing a lot of problems with full staff. So are we sort of classified as full staff right now in the detachment?
We're in very good shape staffing wise at the OPP detachment here in South Bruce. Yeah.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. I think it's really impactful that the detachment has a investigators focus specifically on intimate partner violence. I know that was something our council supported a resolution about declaring that an epidemic, knowing that it's kind of going on. But in the data that we were presented, there's no specific kind of link to intimate partner violence. Is there a way perhaps to have some data related to related crimes? Like, I know sometimes the crime might be mischief, sometimes it might be property damage, sometimes it might be assault. But is there kind of a way to get an eye on what's going on specifically, given that you have dedicated specific resources to it?
Yes. So as a detachment, we provide statistics to our community safety and well-being plan. And I think that's an important area for consideration for that type of statistic. It has been provided to the coordinator of that committee. And I think that'll give you a good snapshot of Graham Bruce area entirely. And we can certainly talk about local to Kincardine as well as Councillor Stewart has requested.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Thank you for your presentation. I noticed that while trafficking has gone down in terms of drug-related offenses, possession has gone up. Is there any particular drug that you have seen a prevalent rise in our communities?
No, there hasn't been a significant change in the drug of choice in the area. It's been consistent, at least my time in Grey Bruce, since 2016. So we haven't seen any noticeable change in different drug varieties.
Councillor Pranger, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Under your crime statistics slides for the other criminal code offenses, one of them is for offensive weapons. Can you sort of define what falls into that category for us, please?
Sure. So an offensive weapon would be a firearm or a knife, depending on the circumstances, to be classified in that way.
Good. Thank you. One question from myself. Can you tell me what the difference is between theft and robbery?
Certainly. So robbery is a theft with violence. That's the difference, is if somebody is going to steal something and they do it in a violent way. So a theft would be something you think of shoplifting or stealing from an unlocked car, or stealing an item from somebody. Robbery is where there's a theft and there's a threat of violence or an act of violence to achieve that theft.
Okay. Inspector Wilcox, thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. McNichol, for being here as well. We appreciate your presence. Thank you again for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to invite Lyle Cowan and Sean Leach to come forward to make a presentation regarding Blue Water Trailer Park. And appreciate you being here as well to make a presentation. Just once their presentation is over, council once again has opportunity to ask questions to clarify. Please keep in mind that most of the information we received regarding our decision-making process about Blue Water Trailer Park was in a closed session, receiving advice from our solicitors. So if you need to clarify what you mean by this or why do you mean that, but we need to be very cautious about stating opinions or presenting, this is what we think about this or that. So just be cautious about that. Yeah, Lyle, Sean, where you go, please.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'm Lyle Cowan, and this is my partner, Sean Leach. And we're here on behalf of the Blue Water Campers, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak. So we're here to discuss the future of the Blue Water Trailer Park, a site that's deeply valued by, excuse me while I get technology. Someone told me not to mess around with it too much. It's a site that's been deeply valued by campers, Kincardine residents, and visitors alike. Our group includes long-standing seasonal campers as well as transient campers. And we've seen firsthand the importance of this as a recreational, social, and economic asset for the town. We're not here to oppose progress, and we're here to help make sure that it's managed responsibly. We respectfully ask council to extend the campground operations beyond 2027 and to do so until a specific redevelopment plan is both approved and fully funded. This is not about delaying progress. It's about ensuring that the transition is responsible, safe, and sustainable. If the operations end in 2027 with no plan ready, the site would sit unused and could become a hazard. The infrastructure is built for campers. It's not designed to be idle. You may face fencing, liability, and maintenance costs without any community benefit in return. Right now, the campground generates some reliable income for the municipality. Premature closure would eliminate that. Worse, the municipality could take on additional cost just to keep the property secure and compliant. Right now, council does have a master plan, and we respect that. But no specific plan or funding that we know of currently exists for this piece of property. Closing the campground before that's in place means that the land will remain dormant, inaccessible, possibly for years. Council approved a 3-year agreement with the current park manager extending the campground operations until October 31st, 27. We also understand that no specific or funded redevelopment plan currently exists for the trailer park. The community committed to communicating early with park users through the 2025-2027 regarding the eventual site closure. We're proposing a phased approach to keep the campground open on a year-to-year basis until the site's future is clearly defined, approved, and financed. That keeps it in productive use, protects public safety, and aligns with the spirit of the Reitmeier donation, which means to ensure the land benefits the community. There we go. Formally, we ask that council defer the planned 2027 closure and allow campground operations to continue under current or revised management until a detailed redevelopment plan is approved, it's fully funded, and there's a clear implementation timeline in place. Keeping Blue Water open during this interim period is good policy. It preserves revenue, protects public safety, prevents unnecessary expense, and provides stability for hundreds of seasonal users and the wider community. We're not asking to hold things up. We're asking that things move forward in a balanced and responsible way. Thank you for your time. We hope to work collaboratively with council and staff on a solution that works both for the town and for the generations of people who have come to love the park. So that's what we have. If there are any questions or...
Lyle, Sean, thank you so much for your presentation this evening. Yeah, Sean, Lyle, yeah. Questions for clarification from council members? Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Of the campers at the campground, how many are seasonal and how many are transient or percentage?
I think there's 45 seasonal and there's 4 transients. No,
I think
4
it's,
transient sites.
39 and
there we go.
There's 3 transient sites right now.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It's my understanding also that a number of decades ago or several years ago, the trailer park was operated with a much higher percentage of transient sites. I guess my question is, have the members of the delegation given consideration to bringing a proposal to council that would see the park continue to operate during this transition period, but with the number of seasonal sites significantly reduced to say no more than 50% of the total?
Our delegation really is about moving forward with whatever plan is decided on in council. I mean, there is no, what we know of now, there is no plan to keep moving forward. So we're simply saying, let's move the current operations into the future until you have a plan ready to go.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, thank you very much. This has been very informative. And unfortunately, as the mayor says, this was done in close, so we don't really can give you any opinions, but you gave us some thoughts. And that's important and everything. So thank you very much for coming and
Yeah,
doing
that
the
was
presentation. Thank you.
our point was to give you our point of view on the. Good.
So thank you very much for coming. We
Thank
do
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to matters for discussion and direction, staff reports. We have a presentation now from Building In Housing Barriers and Opportunities through Development Services. We welcome Amberly Weber here this evening. And we have a motion here on the floor that we will get on the floor. We need a mover and seconder that council receive the report from Building In for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Steinoff, Gray, and Williams. Amberly, welcome.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. We are joined today virtually with the consultant team at Building In. So we have Rosalind, believe Ian and team may be joining us online. Building In worked closely with the municipal and county staff. Kincardine was chosen as part of a federal grant opportunity. Building In reviewed the municipality's planning policies, our infrastructure capacities, all with the goal of identifying opportunities for infill development. So with that, I will pass it over to Rosalind and their team.
Good evening, Rosalind. Welcome to Municipal Council. I'm sorry, and the other gentleman is Amberly who?
Ian Morrow.
Ian, welcome as well. Oh, there's two other people here.
Yes. I'll get into it actually, and I'll give a brief introduction. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay, so as Rosalind kind of puts that presentation together. Good evening. And firstly, I would like to thank the mayor and members of council for allowing us the time to present today. As Amberly mentioned, my name is Ian Morrow. I am the project manager for the Building In program. I'm joined this evening by Rosalind Hill, the principal architect, lead planner, and founder of Building In, as well as Miria Reed, GIS analyst and junior urban planner, and Allison Draney, junior urban planner and communications specialist. For those who are not aware, we're proud to share that Building In was selected as a semi-finalist for the CMHC Level Up Challenge, which brought together innovators from across Canada to design new ways of addressing housing needs. So what we do, we work alongside municipalities to explore practical options for creating more homes in existing neighborhoods, particularly those with older houses, generally from 1980s or earlier, that could be redeveloped once put on the market and purchased by a developer. Our approach is different because we reverse engineer how growth is planned and can forecast where it would be the most fiscal, where it can make the most fiscal sense for developers and municipalities, starting from what's realistic for the community, what's attractive to local builders, and what makes fiscal sense for the municipality. So why it works. With over 20 years of combined experience bridging the gap between municipal planning and the building industry, we design solutions that respect the character of existing neighborhoods, show what's possible through clear visuals and real examples, and help community members see both the short and long-term benefits. So we're not here to push any specific developments or target particular properties. Instead, we're here to share ideas and options for helping Kincardine manage its growing population while preserving the qualities that make it so special. So with that said, I'll pass it along to Allison, I believe.
Me, actually.
Rosalind, sorry.
Yeah. So thank you. We're really pleased to be talking to you today. It was a pleasure to study your community and the housing options that are before you. I am an architect. I've been working on infill housing for a couple of decades, and I'm an urban planner, and in that capacity, working with municipalities like yours. When we think about new housing, there are options. And for municipalities across Canada, there's generally three options: out, in, or up. And of course, in Kincardine, you would want to focus on out or in, because you're not really going to go up. And so I wanted to talk to you from that perspective about options and how you make informed choices about the best ways to grow so that you get the maximum benefit for your community members and allow for lots of healthy options that keep all the things about that are great about Kincardine as great or enhance them even more. When we talk about the potential for housing, infill housing or housing in existing neighborhoods is an important option to consider, but there's a lot of confusion about what infill could mean because infill can mean all sorts of different things. I'm sure you've experienced infill where a small house is torn down and a very big house is built. Few people have experienced the kind of infill that's shown on the screen right now with a building that fits in the scale and context, but has multiple units of a variety of sizes to serve a variety of households. These are some examples of projects that my office has worked on to give you a sense of all that's possible with infill. I'm going to start on the left and go around clockwise. So starting with the image on the left, this is a building that houses 4 households, 2 large households and 2 small households. At the top, another 4-unit building, again with 2 large households and 2 small households. Next to the right, this is a 6-unit building with 6 medium to small households. At the bottom, these are 2 buildings, each with 4 units, could have been designed with each with 6 units for a total of 12 households. And then at the bottom, this is an example of a 9-unit building. But you'll see that all of them are scaled to fit in the context that they have been built or proposed to be in. I'm going to hand over to Allison now. Go ahead, Allison.
Thank you. Thanks, Rosalind. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the general process of how infill housing gets built. So generally, it follows the process of there will be an older home on the market. Typically, it's been built prior to 1980, and then that house comes up for sale. Then the builder or developer will purchase that property and the older home gets demolished and then replaced with a newly built infill home on the same lot. Next, I want to talk about some of the benefits of infill housing. So firstly, it's one of the most affordable types of housing to build, heat, cool, and maintain. That's because they use simple wood frame construction. And when it comes to heating and cooling, because they're sharing walls, floors, and ceilings, that's much better and more economical to heat and cool than any amount of insulation. It's also the most affordable type of housing for municipalities to service, and that's because it's built within existing neighborhoods that already have things like water, sewer, roads, and other infrastructure in place compared to building on expansion lands. So that would mean that it's much more affordable to service rather than building entirely new services from scratch. And then also, this type of housing offers a lot more choice for people to live in very desirable lands that are quite close to downtown. And when we say choice, we mean things like homes of different sizes with different numbers of bedrooms, different tenure types, so options to rent or to own, freehold, or including condos or regular houses. So it just gives much more choice and opens up this desirable land for a broader range of residents in Kincardine. And then next, I wanted to focus on more of the benefits for the municipality specifically. So building more infill housing helps the city grow in a way that balances municipal budgets. That's because when people live in areas that are already serviced, like I already mentioned, the town can collect more taxes without having to spend a lot on servicing new areas. So this extra tax uplift can be extra money to help the city pay for things like affordable housing or fixing or improving infrastructure. And it just puts the city in a much better financial position to fund those different types of things. Another benefit for the municipality is that it's a very impactful way to reduce emissions without added costs. So because infill is built within the existing neighborhoods, it reduces emissions from construction by making use of existing infrastructure instead of building new roads and services. And it also has the benefits of shared walls, like I mentioned before, for more efficient heating and coolings. So lots of good benefits for the municipality.
Thanks, Allison. In just understanding the dynamic of infill, should Kincardine choose to welcome housing in that format more fully than you are now, it's important to always recognize that it's always very incremental. So it never sort of drops on you in all at once. It comes incrementally over time. So when you might get a couple of buildings, another year, another building, few years later, maybe you get another building. And the majority of homes in a neighborhood typically remain exactly as they are. So the homes and lifestyles that already exist in Kincardines' older neighborhoods, should the neighborhood intensify, most of those homes are really unaffected by this kind of change that is peppered throughout a neighborhood and gradual over time. In this way, neighborhoods can actually increase in the number of residents very significantly. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is an increase from 84 homes on this little sample block diagram to 125. And it doesn't look that dramatic, and you wouldn't experience as a dramatic increase if you were walking down these streets, but it is pretty significant and very positive potential for a municipality to change like this. We see in your official plan your growth targets and your need for housing. And we also appreciate that you're doing actually pretty well getting needed housing onto the market, which is great. The challenge that seems to be in front of you is that a very high proportion of that housing is all the same, in the sense that it's falling into that category of new growth in single family homes that are quite large, quite expensive, and you're lacking variety. And so when we started to work on this analysis of your municipality, that's something that some of your municipal planners brought to our attention, something that seems really evident and really challenging, because of course Kincardine, like every municipality, would value options, variety and choice for residents, so that people can choose what's right for them and their family and their household. And when we talk about choice, we're not talking about choices that are a mismatch for Kincardine. We're talking about giving people lots of options, but within the structure of what Kincardine is right now and who you are as a community. So if we look at the housing trends for Kincardine right now and imagine them projecting into the future, we can see that you would be able to meet your housing need purely with the same kind of housing you're building now. So largely with expansion growth in large single family homes. But the real question is that how you want to? Would that be best for Kincardine? And if you choose to grow differently, if you say, well, actually, what we would like is variety and choice. We would like households to have the opportunity to choose what kind of home is the best, most appropriate for them. Then what are the kind of barriers to achieving that? So right now, the pattern of building these majority of homes as large single family homes is a result of your zoning. But not just your zoning, because if you look back in history, you've had that zoning for quite a long time and you haven't always had this challenge. Historically, you've had a variety of homes available to people at a variety of price points, which is great. It's what you want and need. Today, because of the inflating costs of home construction and inflating property values, the same zoning is producing a different effect, a more homogeneous effect with not the variety that you're looking for. So it's important to recognize that this existing challenge, this barrier to variety, isn't anybody's fault. It hasn't been put in place on purpose. It's the result of the passing of time and the confluence of different realities right now. You also need to be realistic about the servicing constraints, the cost of servicing and maintaining your municipality over the long term, your desire to maintain your heritage designations and protect your natural areas, whilst at the same time providing the appropriate kinds of housing. You also need to be working within the constraints of complex stormwater management needs and meeting the needs for parking together with housing in the context of a very snowy place. So those are the challenges. Let's talk about the opportunities. There are a lot of properties in Kincardine that have great potential. Areas of neighborhood where there are smaller homes on larger lots. These lots are rectangular, which makes them even better suited to redevelopment. And when we look at the number of lots that have that kind of vague description and the rate at which they naturally come up for sale over time, there's actually an immense amount of potential for housing embedded right now in your existing older neighborhoods. So that's great news. Now, infill housing doesn't belong just anywhere. We need to be really clear and careful about where it's appropriate and where it's not appropriate. So I'm going to hand off now briefly to Miria, who's our GIS tech, to talk about some of the mapping that we've been doing with the help and input of your city staff.
Hello, can people hear me? Nice.
Yep.
So as Rosalind said, Kincardine has this opportunity to meet the demand for low-rise, smaller and more affordable housing options. But if we want to understand exactly where that opportunity exists, we like to develop these qualifying areas for building in. So this is where key criteria have been met that make low-rise infill a good business model on the developer side, as well as a fiscal advantage on the municipal side. So these areas are already zoned for low-rise residential uses and are typically in older neighborhoods with an older housing stock that's well-positioned for redevelopment. Other considerations included ecological sensitivity, adequate municipal services, and heritage. So on this map, all of the colored parts are the low-rise residential areas in Kincardine, and the light blue area is where all those criteria have been met for optimal infill opportunity. Next slide, please. Something we addressed in our report was further refining that qualifying area to consider stormwater management constraints, because this can really limit infill opportunity. With increasingly extreme weather events, permit application requirements in Kincardine with respect to stormwater management are necessarily complex. However, this process can tip the balance and make an otherwise desirable site for an infill project no longer cost or time effective. So the qualifying area should target infill development to lots with simple and predictable application processes towards parcels that are not uphill from their neighbors. This map is a draft of what the qualifying area could look like to direct developers to simple stormwater management solutions with overland flow towards the street. Next slide, please. So when we look into infill opportunity and potential to meet demand in a given municipality, we want to know what kind of development the existing lot fabric can support. So Kincardine has a lot of standard rectangular lots and a large proportion of deep and wide lots that have great potential for infill. This is illustrated in these maps of lot width and depth, where the darker blue tones indicate larger sizes. Next slide, please. So on the right is an example of an infill site plan for a design we call the Walkway Towns. This could be a 2-story building with 9 homes and have on-site parking. The 3 townhouses going down along the side of the lot would be an attractive option for families or larger households. To the left, we've highlighted all the parcels that would be big enough to accommodate this kind of infill. By no means does this mean all of those highlighted parcels would be redeveloped as what you see on the site plan. We just want to illustrate the potential opportunity for infill based on your lot fabric. Next slide, please.
Thanks,
Oh, I have one more.
Go ahead.
This is a 3D model of what the building from the site plan on the previous slide could look like on the street, and could be the kind of development that would be suitable on those larger lots we know Kincardine has an abundance of. So this building is compliant with Building In's recommended zoning, which would only be applied in that qualifying area if implemented. So these rules would require new development to be context sensitive with regards to building height and setbacks, as well as features like porches and balconies. Like I said before, this design can accommodate on-site parking on wide enough lots, but I'll pass it back to Rosalind now to go over a neighborhood parking solution.
Thanks, Mary. So I hope we're kind of beginning to paint a picture of what's possible in Kincardine. If you're seeking that variety of housing options and a more fiscally sustainable way of growing, parking is really important, and so is snow clearing and snow management. And so together with housing, if you look at increasing the number of dwelling units in your older neighborhoods, it's important to be really practical and mindful of parking needs. Municipalities across Ontario, particularly, we've been looking at the very snowy ones, have a variety of parking solutions, and new homes and people who are looking for housing options that are more affordable. Those people are quite amenable to variety of parking options to complement their housing. So small parking lots in the neighborhood nearby, a short walk from their home, do really well. And here we're showing some examples of those in other snowy Ontario municipalities. This illustration demonstrates the successfulness of the neighborhood parking idea, in which a small neighborhood parking lot on a little leftover piece of property somewhere can serve a variety of multi-unit buildings near to it, allowing people to park their car and walk to their unit. Of course, this is much less convenient than having your car in your driveway, but it's also more affordable. So for some households, this is a great opportunity and falls into that category of allowing people options in the way that they house themselves. So fundamentally, the work that we do with municipalities is scenario-based. We test ideas so that the municipal leaders like yourselves can make informed choices about how to move forward. You've had a zoning bylaw that has remained, it's been refined over time, but you've not tried something different. And to try something different is, a bit unnerving unless you can run the scenario ahead of time and test it out, forecast, see what would happen. And a forecast is not like a whimsical imagination. What you need is a forecast of how the housing industry would really respond. What would actually happen? What would people actually build, and what would it look like? So that's what we test in our scenario tests. And for Kincardine, we did a test of your existing zoning and the potential for building in to get a general idea of what would be possible in either case. If there's interest from the municipality in more detailed scenario outcomes, we can do more. For now, this gives you a general sense. If you were to add to your existing bylaw some of the building in recommended regulations, standardize some of your approaches to stormwater management, ensure that there were parking alternatives in neighborhoods and some creative parking solutions allowed, you would be in a position, you would put Kincardine in a position to receive an industry response. So builders would most likely respond by building these small multi-unit buildings that we have shown you. So if you continue with the zoning that you have now, you're likely to see infill projects that are high-end, generally, mostly single-family homes, lots of big garage doors. They're beautiful buildings. Sometimes they can block views to the water. Sometimes they begin to shift the character of some streets as the demographics shift a little bit in the community. If you choose to seek a path that allows for the diversity of housing in multi-unit buildings, you might see buildings more like this. The top image is 9 units. It's got 6 one-bedroom units and 3 three-bedroom townhouses. The bottom building is an 8-unit building with a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. And it's really important, really, with however you proceed, that you ensure that the character of Kincardine and the interesting features of your neighborhoods are enhanced, and that your neighborhoods become more socially dynamic. And so we've got some great ideas for small additions to your zoning that ensure that that is the case moving ahead. It's application of form-based zoning to ensure that people have doors and windows and porches and balconies and interesting things, and that prevents developers from designing great big flat boxes that don't contribute to the street and make Kincardine a better place to be. This is an example of some of that material for any of you who perhaps have dabbled in zoning. This shows some of our recommendations for facades to have glazing and to have features that are of interest to passerbys. It's about having streets that are welcoming and interesting, and streets that people want to be walking down. So next steps, if you decide that it would be right for Kincardine to seek out this kind of diversity and variety in your housing, to keep Kincardine focused on the existing neighborhoods particularly, and enliven your downtown as much as you can, then we would love to participate in that. We enjoy community consultation and sharing 3D images and projections and ideas with communities. And also hearing from community members what it is that they love about their neighborhoods. We'd love to work with your urban planners and your engineering staff to refine the area that would be targeted for infill, to make sure that it's an area where infill is really going to be great and make those neighborhoods better and not be a burden on services, but be a real advantage to the municipality. We have zoning regulations to recommend that are simple and easy to add in without disrupting the regulations that you have in place now. Once we've worked with you to get a sense of all those pieces, we can do a very refined growth scenario forecast for you, so that you can have a clear sense of what to expect, and you can plan everything else to complement that. We also have some practical tools helping with building code interpretation, stormwater management, and any necessary small amendments to official plans and that kind of thing.
Okay. Rosalind, thank you very much for that presentation. Amberly, do you have anything to add on to that, or we just afford council opportunity for any questions they might have? Councillors, Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Thank you through you. I really do appreciate this report, and I really love the option of infill. I think it's great because I know one of the things that's been concerning me, and I'm glad you brought up stormwater and like the infrastructure that we need from a water perspective. Because when we look at what we're forecasting for yearly increases on the cost of water units, this might help us curtail some of those increases because of the cost we have going up to that infrastructure by making use of the existing infrastructure, and therein more people paying for the maintenance. So I think that this is really important, even when we're considering our tax base and the pressures on those individuals. So I do like this. I guess what I was trying to understand, with the width of some of our roads, because Kincardine was built early on, as well as like surrounding villages like Tiverton. I know you didn't have Tiverton in the landmark for this. It was mostly around. There was a bit for Tiverton, but our roads don't meet the current like width that would be required. We have some very narrow roads. Did you take into consideration those road widths when we were thinking about this, when we're adding the units? Because that makes it even more intriguing to me how we get those public parking lots and how we do that. The concept of a neighborhood parking lot was actually intriguing to me, even considering Tiverton. Like when I look at the Little Blue Coffee Shop, for example, in Tiverton, there's really there's not very many places to park to pop in and out of that coffee shop. So that whole concept actually was really interesting to me, and how infill works, as well as making sure it's still feasible to get around the neighborhood.
Thanks.
Just the question about the community street widths, whether that was considered during the development of this proposal.
No, it wasn't, but it absolutely should be moving ahead if we wanted to refine that approach.
Councillor Pranker, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. Again, thank you for this study and report. I find the building and approach very intriguing for several reasons. One of them being that maintaining the character of our town, especially in the downtown areas, quite important to me. I'm passionate about that. And I find, especially the examples that you've used in here, in the ones that are already built, I love that they maintain the whole like single family dwelling look kind of, but they have multiple units rather than, you know, the row houses that tend to go in. And even some of the infilling we've seen here, the only couple of examples I can think of right now are like condominium style or row house style housing. And I quite like this approach, and as well as the parking solutions too, same thing. So I'd like to know about this type of infilling with the multi-unit houses. Are they intended to be rentals or individually owned? And if they're individually owned, how does the purchase price compare to typical single-family dwellings that you would see nearby?
The ownership options can vary. And the most likely ownership option, or the easiest ownership option, is as rentals. When some of these buildings are located on corner lots, it may be ideal to have some freehold units. And when there's a cluster of them in a neighborhood, they can be all incorporated into a single condominium structure, so that individual units can be owned individually within a condo of 30 or 40 units cumulatively across multiple little buildings. So there's lots of variety in the potential for ownership, and the builders, or sort of the market response, would dictate those ownership structures over time, depending really upon demand from purchasers and tenants. The prices haven't been carefully analyzed, but in comparison to properties where a single large house is occupying a lot, these multiple homes are sharing one lot and the cost of one lot. And the homes themselves are of a variety of sizes. So the construction costs are the same as it's per square foot as other forms of housing, but because of the savings in lot costs, land costs, and soft costs are being shared, and the efficiency of the kind of building where you're sharing walls and floors and ceilings, and the mix of unit sizes, the end result is a variety of units at a variety of price points.
Great, thank you. I think where I was going with that in my own head is that it's not just affordability, but also attainability is an issue. I mean, for a single family dwelling on a normal lot size, like I couldn't get into the market right now if I didn't own my own home that I own right now. So this is a very intriguing idea because they're beautiful buildings, they're new, they're well, the examples are at least, and yet in theory they'd be much more affordable than trying to build your own home. So I quite like this idea.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation tonight. I've had a few conversations with Councillor Blackwell about this offline before the meeting, and you've given me another list of things that I want to discuss with her later. I like to be an optimist, but I also think sometimes it's useful to be a bit of a cynic. We talk about doing something and sending signals to the developer/builder market. I'd be concerned about on this, if you have some OpEx on this experience. So say you apply a zoning overlay, I think you're also signaling to the seller's market that your property is much more valuable than it would be otherwise, and you may actually eat into, they'll know you're coming. And so prices will go up, and that in a sense will push up the cost of dwelling units in order that the developer/builder can make a go of it. I wonder what your thoughts are about that.
Right. So it's really important as we analyze your municipality that we identify as many areas as possible that are well suited for infill. So we don't want to hone it down to a very specific area, because then exactly what you have described would happen. I describe it as a kind of a boutiquing effect, where certain lots are seen as really special because you can do this special thing on them, and therefore the price of those lots inflates, and now we haven't made housing any more affordable. So it's important that when you approach a change like this, you cast the net wide. So allow this kind of activity on as many properties as are suitable, so that the demand for lots to purchase for this kind of development is very small compared to the available land for it. And in that way, you can avoid that kind of inflation activity, or developers bidding each other up on properties, and that, because of course that would be really unhelpful.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, that's like where I would go next. I would hope, playing the role of the optimist, that the result would prove me wrong, but I have the suspicion that the map showing the suitable properties is overly optimistic, and if it's refined based on site-specific evaluation, you're going to find that you have a very small area that is suitable, and you'll end up with the boutiquing effect. But the proof will be in the analysis. So thanks again.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Good presentation. This is theory still. I'd like to see a practical sort of application of this. Have you built any of these? Do you have developers on your team? I mean, we're not builders. We just basically do planning and things of that nature. You need developers to want to really, put their money where their mouth is and everything. Have you built any of these? Are you associated with any developers? Have you done this in a town of our size? What's the history? Because right now it sounds good on paper, but I like to see the practical side too. Thank you.
Yeah, so we've designed these for developer clients in the Ottawa area. We have a partner who is a modular builder who's very keen to build these in any municipalities who enact supporting regulations. We have checked, and he would be delighted to deliver to Kincardine. He's a volumetric modular builder. Our office is a member of the Home Builders Association. We've taken our material to the National Modular Conference of the Home Builders, and there was an awful lot of excitement about this. The conventional builders are also very interested in this, and find themselves really, really constrained in what they are allowed to build, given the demand of the market right now. So what they're allowed to build isn't meeting demand. And so it's quite crippling and frustrating. And they see this as a great opportunity to get building again. But we are not ourselves developers.
Councillor Stewart.
Just a follow-up. That's unfortunate, but I see the value of this. I really do in Kincardine. Infilling is where you need to be. You got the services already laid out and everything else, and if you can have more units using the same services, it's just better for the taxpayers long term. I'm just not sure how we go from this to actually having, a spade in the ground. And that's going to be a challenge because we're not a planning department. We don't have engineers on staff. We depend on the county for those things. So I just got to understand this, but I'm hoping that we can at least start showing a couple of examples around here and maybe bring some developers that are interested in doing this, because I think this would be a real plus for us. Thank you.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you through you. Thank you so much for coming. As my colleague mentioned, I'm perhaps known as a bit of an infill fangirl, and it is something that I think is really critical for, as you said, for choice, for people being able to age in place and stay in their neighborhoods, for people looking to enter the market. One of the things that I talked with Catherine about when we first met to kind of talk about building was the pressures on farmland as well in our community. People often think of rural areas as just being able to grow ad nauseum, and certainly we've talked a lot about needing to kind of stay in our sandbox so that we can maintain the quality farming that we have. I know Councillor Stewart asked you a question around have you built these before, but questions more around the proposed next steps and where and what communities have you taken that next step with, where you've done some of the community consultation specifically, because I think that is something we might get some pushback or some questions on. What I can say is I live in a community or a part of Kincardine that really almost fits this already. We have duplexes, low-rise apartment buildings, multi-units within a building that looks like a single-family home. So I've lived it and I know that it works, but I'm not sure, I'm just curious about where else maybe you've done it and some of the reactions that you've had in those kind of communities.
So we've done our full consultation program in Sudbury and Elmont so far. So we are a young program, and those two experiences though were really interesting. In Sudbury, they're quite an unengaged community when it comes to consultation, and in Elmont, quite the opposite. So Elmont is a small town outside of Ottawa, and we would have 50 people come out to each of the 3 consultations, very engaged, very interested, but particularly interested, I think, because in the first consultation, we asked for their input and their ideas about their neighborhoods. And when we came back in the second and third sessions, we showed them options and measured the outcomes against the criteria they'd given us. And that made for some really interesting conversations. So I'd love to give it a shot in Kincardine as well.
CAO, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I do just want to take a moment to acknowledge that this was an effort that was spearheaded actually through Councillor Blackwell, connecting us with the team here that you see on the screen, as well as a collaboration with the county. We maybe put a bit of the burden on our colleague here, Amberly, to gather all of the information to be able to help provide that data and to the team from Building In. And I do want to acknowledge and thank that team. This is a great opportunity in our mind to give some food for thought, particularly when you're thinking about the potential for community growth in our region and what it might look like here while also being fiscally responsible. So I do appreciate everyone's time that has already gone into this and the opportunity to present to council. And it's about considering potential next steps for us in the future as we think and hear about what the community says around housing needs. So thank you.
Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, through you. Thank you for the presentation. When I look on the map, I know like a lot of the properties that we see, in particular in the south end, are really considered like prime lots, and we're already seeing them being sold at a pretty high rate, being torn down, and new houses being built. And so, I suggest kind of giving the current dynamic of a lot of the lots that are being presented. Like practically, I'm not really sure how this could work. Again, not for all the lots, but for a lot of them. And I think it would require a really big shift in our community's perspectives on how these neighborhoods function, given that this land, I mean, we really have people buying these lots at a premium, tearing them down and building their dream home, and they want these lots. And so I feel like we're really now creating, to the point that I think one of the councillors made, sorry, I can't recall who, that it will drive up prices when we're increasing the demand for already high demand lots. Just I guess a word of caution.
Councillor Stanoff-Gray, please.
Thank you. Through your chair, I acknowledge what my fellow councillors have said to that capacity. I think anything where the waterfront is very readily accessible is going to be prone to that type of situation. So it's not just going to be of interest to developers, but other individuals as well. But that's not actually where I was going with this particular question. Because have you only been in consultation state, or have you actually executed these? Because what I'd be curious about to councillors, the other councillors around this table's cost model, is whether or not it actually translates into affordable, attainable housing. So if people are buying these for rental units, because you said that's the most practical use case, if it's not feasible to do a strata of some sort, like a condo fee board for the overall maintenance of the buildings, does that actually translate into more affordable housing options for folks? Because our rental rates here are quite high. So have we seen a reduction in those rates and that attainability index met? I'm still all for infill. I don't want to confuse it. I'm just curious if you have an example for that.
Yeah, so Sudbury is now working to implement our recommendations, but it's still early days, so we don't have a track record to show you in that respect. However, I can speak to the realities of our housing market, and we need to be realistic that the rental rates that are set for any new building that's constructed are not directly associated with the cost to construct the building. In fact, the rate at which any new units are rented is whatever the market will bear. So it's really important to have regulations in place that allow housing to be built without constraints on different types and sizes. For example, if you have a shortage of small units and a builder starts building small units, everybody runs to the small units and bid against each other and the prices go up. So having a regulatory context in which there isn't dire need for anything is really important to moderate cost inflation and to manage the market most effectively. But really, what you're talking about in terms of having new units coming onto the market at lower rates, it's going to take a move like the federal government flooding the market with new housing that they set at the rate that it costs them to build in order to kind of calibrate prices in a healthy way. And of course, that kind of big housing market scale move is beyond the capacity of your council, but it is possible in the federal realm, and one would hope that that's something that we will see. So to complement that, Kincardine should actually be working diligently to make sure that your regulations allow for housing of different varieties to meet needs, so that you're not creating any pent-up need that then forces prices up.
Councillor Stanoff-Gray.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I will say this, and I'm not sure if you're, I'm not remembering if I saw it in the data. Maybe I did. Maybe you can refresh my memory. I feel like right now there's a really hard spot for those small families to get into units. Because I've seen a lot of focus on like a 1 or 2 bedroom unit. I think those 3 bedroom units for those small families is really important. So I did like the focus on that. Do you have any data that would help us understand the needs of small families and what they would be looking for in the area?
That I appreciate that question, but it's a little bit of outside, but if we can connect with Bruce County Housing or Social Services, they would be the organization that could speak definitively about those demands in our region. It's a good question though. And you know, it fits into the question about the appropriate use of any building in projects or anything like that, what we would ask for. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a few comments. So one was, I had reviewed our housing action plan last night, and specifically there were 2 points that I thought were really interesting in connection to this kind of idea, which was 1.1 was review lot sizes, setbacks, and permitted uses to encourage a wider range of housing types, dwelling units, smaller lots, and greater density. And then the second was 2.2, which was pre-zone properties and serviced areas that have high potential to support increased density, infill, intensification, or redevelopment. So I think a lot of that is what we've already kind of identified through our housing action plan as a potential. What is always hard for me as kind of a very theory-based person is what do I translate that into an action? So that's what I really do appreciate about their proposal. The other thing I did want to mention a little bit is we do have infill happening, and we do have, as a smaller community, a lot of small developers. So we have a lot of people doing, tearing down houses and rebuilding a duplex or a larger house with a basement unit. And so this is kind of allowing that next step before you have to do like a subdivision plan. It allows you to look at how do we increase the capacity of those developers to develop something that meets the community need without having to kind of go from I can build a house to I can build a subdivision. It kind of helps us meet that inner area. So it's just something I'm really passionate about. I know I think there's some chat, it was a lot of work for our staff. We don't have a full planning department, but it's something that I think we need to consider and talk with the community about how do we want to grow, because ultimately this is a more cost-effective way, and I think it supports community vitality. But ultimately, we're also responsible to the residents and what kind of community are they hoping to build.
Councillor Stanoff-Gray, please.
I think this question would be for both, for our staff maybe, perhaps. But one of the things that had been commented in here was that Kincardine actually had been doing a pretty good job at building new units. It was one of the comments made in the report. I can't remember what page. And it sounded like there were approximately 595 new units still in demand for 2045 on page 9. They were talking about where we need to go. Doing these numbers, we're looking only at like whether there's a permit for residency or looking at planned developments where we don't have the houses in, but we've approved in kind those developments that are happening. I'm just curious if that number of where we have to get to includes those developments or not.
Those numbers in the report are from StatsCan 21 data, so it's not permits.
So it's not particularly based on municipal information, but rather on a broader scale than that. Amberly, would you like to speak to that or not? Okay.
Idea.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor that we receive the report for information. That motion in and of itself does not preclude further consideration or mulling through and, developing some sort of direction that we could receive more information from staff about what does that mean to even begin the process that Building In has presented tonight. But certainly, thank you for the report. We have the motion in front of us. All in favor of receiving it? Any opposed? And that's carried. Team, Building In, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate your work. Okay, we're moving on to next, holding removal bylaw 26 Parkwood Development Service. We need a mover and seconder that the Council of the Municipality of Kincardine pass a bylaw for the removal of the holding H1 provision from Concession A, Part Lots 47 and 48, Municipality of Kincardine, Geographic Township of Kincardine. Moved by Councillors Stewart and Prenger. Is there any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. We have a holding removal bylaw for 120 Farrell Drive. We need a mover and seconder that the Council of the Municipality of Kincardine pass a bylaw for the removal of the holding H1 and H36 provisions from Plan 3M113 Lot 16 Municipality of Kincardine, Geographic Township of Bruce. Moved by Councillors Steinhoff, Gray, and Hinchberger. Any discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Amberly, I'm not really sure. I mean, these archaeology assessments sometimes don't always agree with me. But how long did this take before they realized they didn't even need one? I mean, is this a month? Are people waiting for 3 months or people waiting for a week? Could you give us any indication?
Yeah, for this particular, or through Mayor, for this particular file, SON's response time was quite quick. It was back in the fall when the request went forward and we heard, and then the project sat for a little bit before they were ready to proceed. But specifically hearing from SON on the archaeological requirement in this case was a quick turnaround.
That's good news. Thank you.
All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Okay, we move on to Parks Bylaw 2025. We need a mover and seconder that the council approve Parks Bylaw 2025. Moved by Councillors Blackwell and Stewart. I have a broad question to pose that might help direct our conversation. We have the broader question, and it's not even a vote. It's not a vote. Okay. Do we want to approve? It's a straw vote that really doesn't mean anything, but it certainly directs how we begin our questioning. Do you want a parks bylaw or not? Not necessarily this one. Do you want a parks bylaw? If you think we should have one, then we generate conversation that informs staff of what needs to be approved or amended or whatever. If we don't want a bylaw, then that would, in your head, that would direct your questioning to go, what do I need to comment about that does not permit this bylaw? And we can save a lot of time and energy if we establish in our minds whether in the first place you want a bylaw to control parks or whether you don't. So the broad question is, do you want a parks bylaw or not? Yes or no? Yes. Do you want a parks bylaw? Do you not want one? Okay, so we're going to move forward. The conversation will be broadly, what does staff need to hear to, include or amend or whatever we do within this parks discussion. Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, please.
Thank you through you, Chair.
Just a minute before you go.
Oh.
Is this about process or about the bylaw itself?
If you'd let me express what I'm thinking.
But, well, no, I'm just wondering if we should have our director talk about the bylaw before we begin our questioning. You don't? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Just based on the feedback in the emails that I've seen going back and forth, I'm just being honest. I like that you prefaced this with, do we want a bylaw or do we not? Because it's clear that there are some, I would say, structural issues that have to be addressed within the bylaw. I don't think it's unfair to say that. But we ran into the same challenge when we did the tree bylaw, and it didn't mean that we shouldn't do it. We knew that we wanted a good piece, a good bylaw written that met the intent of what we're trying to do. So I don't know whether I'm suggesting we maybe have an ad hoc committee just to shore this up and get it back in front of us, similar to the process that was followed with the tree bylaw. That's all.
That was a great recommendation. So just, yes. So the, if you want to do something like that procedurally, you would just automatically defer this until a ad hoc committee was formed and made recommendations and brought back. So would you like to make a motion to defer this until the creation of a ad hoc parks bylaw committee? And with a report to be brought back, do you want to provide some sort of a time frame? We're in a bit of a transition here, which makes it a challenging situation for the position of Director of Parks and Recreation to be in this. So it's not that, what I'm clearly hearing is not that we're not interested, but we just want to afford an opportunity for a deep dive into the parks bylaw, and I just want to understand the time frame that we might establish until it's done. Let's put a time frame of the end of 2025. If it needs to be extended, we can. Okay. Okay, so that has been moved by Councillor Steinhoff-Gray. It's been seconded by Councillor Kavanagh. Is there any discussion? Regarding the motion? Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. Through you, I know it would potentially require a amendment to the terms of reference, but I'm wondering whether, given that we have a recreation ad hoc committee right now, I know it's to look at the facilities, but rather than strike yet another committee, because I know your schedule is very tight, is this something that you could see being referred to that committee?
No. Further discussion? The terms of reference will be crafted through the work of the CAO and the director. Opportunity for inclusion, and that will be presented to council, unless it's council's. No, it's going to come back to council. I'm not going to pick anybody for that one. So, no, it's just the right thing for council to decide if they want to be on it, and that those terms of reference will come back at the next council meeting. Is that too soon? The end of August? We can manufacture something by then? Okay. We have understanding broad what we're voting on? Yeah. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, there we go. Seashore Playground Project Budget Amendment. We need a mover and seconder that council approve a 2025 capital budget amendment for Parks Project P 068 Seashore Playground in the amount of $100,000 to be funded through a developer contribution for a total project cost of $210,000, moved by councillors Blackwell and Hinchberger. Michael, do you need to, it's pretty straightforward? So it's the same playground project, except there's an extra contribution. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. One of my questions is, obviously most playgrounds have about like a 15-year lifespan. When we're looking at what we would need to replace this 15 years down the line, would it be a $200,000 project, or is some of this project going into things like ground preparation and trails and things that would be last longer than that?
Yep, for sure. Thank you, through your mayor. For sure, the playground itself, and this is all in cost, is installation, ground surfacing, border, that kind of thing. The playground structure itself is not that expensive. I would also say too, when we go to replacement, it's not necessarily that we have to build the same playground again. There are other options, other things that we can do in that location.
Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, through you. I'm just wondering, is the developer's contribution depending on ours staying at 110,000? Because I'm just wondering, should we look at maybe reducing or retracting our amount so that the budget's less? I don't know if that's an option. Just throwing it out.
So from a budget perspective, like our money is already budgeted, it's included in the tax rules and all those sorts of things. So
It's not $100,000.
Even the Parkland Trust.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not taxpayers' dollars.
Oh, all of it. All of it.
Contributions are non-tax dollars, and
so that just to be sure, just to be clear, can you explain the financing of the entirety of this project? How much the municipality has contributed, how much the developer has contributed?
Yep, and through your mayor, so currently approved by council, which is funded through the Parkland Trust, was $110,000. That was during the last budget. This is an additional $100,000 as a voluntary contribution that the developer is putting forward, so it's the developer.
And the Parkland Trust comes from where? Development charges. It's not tax based. Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Yeah.
And that's carried. Knox Presbyterian Church parking lot agreement. We need a mover and seconder. The council approve a 5+5 year lease agreement with Knox Presbyterian Church for the purposes of accessing parking facility for their congregation. Moved by councillors Steinhoff, Gray, and Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Joint recreation cost sharing agreement. We need a mover and seconder that council approves the joint recreation cost sharing agreement with Huron-Kinloss for a 5+5 years. Moved by councillors Blackwell and Deputy Mayor Clark. Any discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
On behalf of the taxpayers, this is a great deal. Unfortunately, it's not a great deal for Kincardine. It's a better deal for our friends south here in Kinloss. I mean, I'm not going to support this. I'm sorry. I know that we have two council members that do live here in Kinloss and do pay taxes there. But, I think that when I look at the overall cost of our pools and everything else, this is a really great deal. And plus, I'm going to also say, there's also a health clinic that we're supporting with the extended community, like here in Kinloss and others. I would start at $250,000, to be honest with you, and then go from there. I think thank God there's a 1 year sort of type of opt-out clause, because I think next term, if I'm lucky enough, I am going to change this. I just think for the taxpayers of Kincardine, our costs are well over $1 million at handling that DC center. Look at the swimming thing. They did an analysis. 61% of the population is not even Kincardine. No, I'm sorry. I can't support this.
Councillor Steinhoff, Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I share some of the concerns that Councillor Stewart has expressed in when you read the report, we know that for swimming lessons, I don't know that it's comprehensive beyond swimming lessons, but we know that 61% of swimming lessons are from here in Kinloss. What I don't understand when I look at this is the breakdown of our carrying costs and the breakdown of whether our swimming lessons programs are even break even. For a long time, I don't even think we broke even on our summer camps. So I would like to understand the costs that it represents when I look at their value. Like 5% increase doesn't really tell me much if the amount I was paying isn't close to what the contribution will be expected to be. And there was a section in the agreement in 3.1 where Huron Kinloss would be getting a report on data showing the kind of background of who's using what. And I would assume even if we don't necessarily have formal sign-up fees, there would be liability waivers that would tell us where people live. So I think there has to be a way for us to more meaningfully figure this out. So before I would be willing to sign something like this, I would want to see that report or data that's outlined in 3.1 to make a better assessment of whether it's a fair deal or not.
So my understanding of the background through you, Mr. Mayor, the previous agreement was established on a shorter time frame so that more data could be gathered. So prior to that, there really wasn't the same amount of data collection as we even have right now. So the new program that was implemented by Community Services to gather information does collect some information about usage, but it certainly doesn't collect all information about usage in our DC. We definitely have drop-in programs and agreements with other users for just rooms that are used for free that we don't have access to the information about where the users reside. So there are certainly lots of areas where we do not have information available to us. This would have been our commitment to provide what we do have, and where we can gather more information, it's typically through programs that you're going to register for. I guess I would offer that while this is a 25% increase over the 5-year term, that's proposed with a pause before moving to the next 5 years to see what information we have and whether or not there are opportunities for increase. We are hoping and identifying to our neighbors that there is a lot of access by our shared communities of our facility. The hope on their side, I think, is that there's in many ways a boundaryless sort of access because people don't necessarily feel that they're not in Kincardine when they live in Huron Kinloss, and a lot of benefit to them, which is why we have proposed an agreement which moves directly to the municipality to municipality versus user fees. And I would say the cost of user fees is much more likely to be less because I don't think that it'll be a higher administrative cost on our end. So we will have to increase the staffing complement for us to be able to gather that from those residents. And I suspect you will have some challenges in getting people to self-identify their location of where they are. So it will cause challenges and be an administrative burden for us, and we would expect to see less revenue. So the hope is why we were hoping for an agreement between the two municipalities. I would say, and it's noted in the report, and we had discussions about this, we are also quite interested in working with Huron Kinloss in the future on capital projects. So having an agreement in place that acknowledges that particularly the pool is one of the key elements that they as a community see a huge benefit to being able to have their residents access and the programming that comes out of there. So we're interested in something in the future, and that is a conversation that we had between staff as well as mayors, and that we think that's something that should have participation from that municipality as well.
Yeah, Counselor?
So to clarify on what you're saying, there would be, based on, if I'm hearing correctly what you've just said, I just want to make sure that my understanding's crisp. It sounds like we would be doing this fee through this agreement, but there is still the potential for additional funds to be added through capital costs based on those heavy leveraged like items, like a pool that have significant work scopes coming up. So if I agreed to this, it would still expect some kind of support for the capital cost of that pool. I just want to clarify that is my understanding, because that makes more sense to me than the way I was originally reading it. So I'm just clarifying. Thank you.
So this is strictly the operational side of the recreation joint. Yeah. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. While I hear some of the concerns raised by my fellow councillors, and I can appreciate that, particularly when we look at the report and the usage by our neighbors, I equally have concerns with not having any increase in place. This allows us the off ramp if it's deemed that perhaps it's the increase is not sufficiently significant, that with 1 year's written notice we can terminate. I think it's one thing to sort of argue against a proposal, but if we have no alternative proposal, things will just stay in place, which I don't think is acceptable either. So I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and while it may not be ideal in terms of what we, some of us believe should be the contribution, I think we're getting or moving at least in the right direction with a sufficient exit strategy if required. So I hear the concerns, particularly from Councillor Stewart, but I think in light of not having an alternative at this stage, I would be supporting this.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I'm of a bit of a similar mindset. I think that there is benefit to the increase. I think it's also challenging to other areas I know of have implemented or are implementing non-resident fees. And it does tend to drive down participation and in some cases fracture people's identification to their community. I think one of the challenges for me would be if we're looking at our swimming lessons being 61% based on hearing Kinloss folks, if they weren't there, we wouldn't be able to run the pool and the pool would be sitting empty, but our base cost to run it would be similar. So I'm not entirely sure that this isn't a good path forward for us in terms of we're getting a contribution. Do I think it should be higher? Sure. But I also think we need time to build the business case to argue exactly why that should be. And I think that's what part of this was about, was let's do an agreement to have something in place. Let's spend some time looking at our data and being able to argue for why it should be at a certain rate, because this is kind of, and I don't want to use the word arbitrary because I don't think it is, but I think it's not necessarily based on data that we are now starting to get through registration. So I think it could be really helpful moving forward to start to gather that. But as Deputy Mayor Clark said, we don't have it now. So it's hard to argue from a place of fact if we don't have anything to argue with.
Just to clarify, like we do have we provided here in Kinloss with a significant amount of data regarding usage. Like we're not just guessing or something. The registration programs are. Maybe Director, you maybe want to speak to that a little bit more than this.
Yes, thank you for the question. Through our internet or ActiveNet program that we have, which was purchased, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, that provides us the data for registered programs. Obviously, it doesn't for drop-in programs such as skating and swimming, but those and just so council knows too, the individuals themselves put in their profile. So they provide us their address when they register in ActiveNet, and therefore we're able to retrieve how many active registrations we have, and that also includes our membership purchases as well.
Councillor Kavanaugh, you had your hand up, please.
Yes, I was just going to add my comments through the chair that it's easy to stand there and criticize and say, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal? How many times have we seen someone, you know, at the higher level or south of the border tear up a piece of paper and say, I can do a better deal? But at the end of the day, this is an improvement over what we've had. And I have confidence that our staff took the data that we had available and went and negotiated the best arrangement that they could, given the circumstances with neighbors that might not have the same alignment necessarily, right? So at the end of the day, a compromise means neither side is truly happy with the outcome, but this is a betterment and an improvement for us.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. It's not much of an improvement. We actually last term brought a new system in place, like you said, so we could really start to understand the data and who was using the Davidson Center. I mean, I don't think you guys remember that in the budget time, you know, capital budget, we had a wall repairs and ceiling, $275,000. Oh my God, we had a generator replacement, $600,000. That's $1 million. To keep that place open and everything. So, you know, I know that you think I'm harsh, but this thing really cost a lot of money. I mean, I've never even been in the pool, you know, because I use the lake and that's my pool. But I'm saying I don't mind contributing, but I don't want to over contribute. And if the people at Huron Kinloss wants to use the facility, they need to contribute just like the taxpayers. I mean, basically taxpayers in our community, for our community, it's about $65 per taxpayer. What they're getting away with is about $14. So, you know, maybe that you think this is fair, but, you know, I thank God we do have a 1-year option because I think this is going to come back. So right now, I still can't support it. Thank you.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just a question for CIO. You've mentioned that we have some blind spots on data because the data is not there to harvest. So do we have a plan of how we're going to reconcile that so that we do have a wholesome review for a year's time when we may want to exercise an opt-out?
Thank you. Through you, yes, it is a good question, Councillor. I would have a difficult time envisioning how we would capture easily the drop in access to our facility. Some of the programs that are also offered within our facility are not run by us. I think the use of ActiveNet is tremendously helpful and been helpful for this discussion, but even to consider, you know, use of rooms that is for free, that, you know, groups have for years been able to use for the drop-in programs. We certainly don't capture that information, and I think that would be a significant, I might turn it over to the director, but I think it would be a significant amount of administrative resources to switch. But if that is something council would direct at some point in time, we could look at what the options are. But if you don't mind, I'll turn it over to the director.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the question. You will have heard me say over the number of years, our design causes flaws, the Davidson Center design. We are embarking as early as tomorrow, our first meeting with our ad hoc committee to talk about the facilities design through the architect that we've secured. Part of those discussions will be the design of the Davidson Center and how we can start to secure how we know when people are coming into the facility and when we know when people are leaving. Right now, we have 4 or 5 egresses, which make it a challenge in that facility. If we had a more controlled entrance to the Davidson Center, we would know who is in the facility, and we would also allow us an opportunity for some identification through that process. Is that happening tomorrow? No. It's not going to probably happen in the next 12 months, but at some point down the road, we will have a better idea who is in that building.
Geofencing. Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, through you. So when I like listening to the conversation amongst my counselors and the information that the CAO has provided, I'm of the view that having demand for our services by paying customers is a good thing, as long as we can continue to ensure our residents have access. And I'm also of the view that I don't think ratepayers should be paying for anybody's swimming lessons, regardless of where they live. I think that we should have the right fee structure in place for our services so that we're at least paying for those services through fees. And I appreciate that that's not always going to be the case, but I think that this is perhaps an opportunity to revisit our fee structure, if nothing more. Not necessarily two-tiered, just in general. So people are still signing up to pay. So this is like a paying service that they're being provided. But I'm also, to the CAO's point, I think that having support to be able to open that discussion around capital investments is critical. And from what I understand right now, that this opens that door for that dialogue, which I think is probably perhaps a more important part of the conversation, which is why I would support this.
Councillor Stanoff, Gray, please.
Thank you through you, Chair. I don't know that we could ever get to a fee structure where our recreational facilities would be net zero. That's just not a reality that I see in the foreseeable future with our facilities still being accessible. But what I do think was important from the conversation, and it's an important piece to come back. The examples that Councillor Stewart across from me was making have to do with capital costs on the building. We need a generator, we need this, we need that. Those are capital costs. So if this agreement, even though it doesn't look quite right to me, is in addition to shared capital costs, knowing how heavily these buildings are leveraged so that we don't end up losing facilities and we are able to offer both sides the facilities that we want and need, it makes it more feasible to keep them because we know that we're in a crunch right now for funds for all of those facilities. We know from the reports that we had done that we have more recreational space per capita than our friends in Wellington from the data that our CAO kindly put together for us. So in order to maintain all these services that we're lucky enough to have, there has to be that fair share approach. And I think that's all anyone's asking for around this table.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you through the chair. I've just been trying to wrap my head around the financial considerations on the first page of the report. So right now, what's proposed is that we're going to get a 5% increase from 2024 levels each year. So it's a $5,300 increase each year. It's not a 5% increase upon the year before. So that number over the 5 years does not get greater based on the year before that they paid. So it's approximately $2,000 more a year for the municipality for here in Kinloss. They're paying us $2,000 more a year based on this. That's it for 5 years. So we are getting $10,000 over 5 years extra from them based on this fee structure, just to put it in context.
We have a motion before us to approve the joint recreation cost sharing agreement with Huron Kinloss. All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? And that is carried. 543 Burby Side Road surplus lands analysis. Need a mover and seconder that council declare the western portion of the lands located at the municipal 543 Burby Side Road surplus to the needs of the municipality and direct staff to proceed with the disposition of this land through a qualified realtor, and that any provision be included that any buyer will be responsible for the application for severance of the lands in this location. Moved and seconded by Councillor Blackwell, Councillor Kavanaugh. Discussion, please. Councillor Stewart.
I'm getting a little worried about this, through you, Chair, of course. I'm getting a little worried about this severance. It seems to be aimed at one company. Having the western side of the parkland being severed, there's no access to a public road. Basically, there's no access to Highway 21 or the side road. So would that be part of the severance, that we put a private road through the park? Because, you know, right now, I mean, maybe someone can help me out here, but you know, you're severing a piece of property that'll be landlocked. And I don't think you can do it. Now, I know that we all know what's happening. I mean, let's not be, you know, there is an offer, or there was always an interest for the company to put a warehouse there. But you know, having a tire warehouse in a park is not a great idea. It's not even a good idea to have a tire warehouse in any residential area or village. So I don't really understand this one. You know, part of the surplus land that I was trying to understand is to go for residential. I don't see any of this sort of residential, you know, and I'm not sure. I mean, we could take a couple of slices of the property right along the side road and sever those and actually make those residential if there's a demand. I'm not sure what the demand is in Burby, but doing this, it's more of a custom job that I see than really a beneficial to the community or to us. I mean, we're selling a piece of property and then we have to go ahead and go to the county and sever it. And then we have to approve it ourselves. There could be a potential conflict of interest here. So, you know, if you're going to do a surplus piece of property, you'll see that with my other argument, and we talked about this in Birchwood, we should have it already zoned properly to what we really intend. And that the intent of surplus, as far as I was concerned, was to build more residential. I don't see that here. So I can't support this.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I've got a different perspective of this. We got into the whole surplusing of lands through the Housing Action Plan, and the initial screening looked and said, nope, owned by the municipality, needed. Then it was not owned by the municipality, don't need it, might be useful for addressing affordable housing. And then it was owned by the municipality, not needed, but really not enough to make a dent in housing. And that it really came down to size. And the notion was that you would use some of the proceeds from the sale of properties that were surplus to the needs of the municipality to help enable what was the long-term goal, which was affordable housing. I understand what my colleague is saying right now. I think that the step we're taking is we still own the card. We still have all the cards. And in fact, what it's been written in a way is that whomever might make an offer on the property, one, we'd have to accept it. And I think it's pretty clear they're going to have to do all the legwork in order to make it into whatever they might want it to be, which would put it into the realm of planning, in which we'll have a say in that as well. So.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. My understanding for this particular property is that the playground is along the side road, and the north end of that actually has an access into or area big enough to have access to the back open part. I didn't realize that we were going to require a purchaser to do the severance. And maybe there's a good reason why that changed, but my understanding would be like if we've decided this as a municipality, as a council, that this is surplus to us and we want to sell it for a profit so that we can put that money towards something else, then we should be deciding how much of the park we want to keep, since staff said keep the park, and how much we want to get rid of, and where that severance line should be, and that we should be processing that severance so that it's exactly how we want it to be. And the other thing is that my understanding is that there is no guarantee that anyone is interested in it anymore. So this is up to us whether we actually think it's surplus and whether we want to dispose of it or not.
Just a question for CAO. It was my understanding that the lines where the severance would occur had pretty much been determined. Like we weren't just going to say hack off however much you want. Like we had established, relatively speaking, where it was going to be established. Did we?
So we have identified an area that we think could be declared surplus to the municipal needs. It is based on interest that has been raised previously. If council wanted to determine the severance, they could, but to the point of we're not sure exactly who would come forward. It's possible that there are different configurations slightly that they might desire that could be considered by council, and we thought that it would benefit both the potential purchaser and the municipality not to spend additional resources on this. You can have a municipally initiated severance, but then you do have to be clear, and then you have to consider, is that continuing if there is no interest in that particular severance. This was intended to see whether or not there was interest, and then put the onus on a potential purchaser. Of course, any kind of offer would reflect the fact that that is work that either the municipality is doing, would likely increase the cost. If the purchaser is doing, you could expect that the cost is going to be offered at a rate where they think it's fair for them to have to carry on with the process. So it's up to council, just additional resources if the direction is to do it ourselves.
Councillor Pranger, follow up, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jill for that context, because I didn't realize we were slightly flexible on where those severance lines could be. So that does make sense now.
Councillor Stanoff Gray.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Not that I don't believe Councillor Pranger, she's usually bang on when she looks at something, but there is a separate access point. I'm just trying to understand there and what the remaining parcel would be versus the severed parcel in size, because I wasn't seeing that necessarily in the information in front of me.
So the report does note that we got ahead of ourselves, and it was in the list of motions that got made, and then it was researched and moved ahead, but then we needed to look at the referred versus carried item on the motion. So notice of the proposed disposal shows, generally where the road access could be if this was to be disposed of in this configuration, which is generally what it is we'd be proposing. So.
Councillor Stewart, please.
I'm not quite sure, and through you, Mayor, I'm not quite sure if this is street legal, because the person who would be applying for a severance doesn't own the property. We would own the property, so we would give this person permission to go ahead to county to sever it, and we could turn around as council and turn it down. Potential conflict of interest. We're already giving him permission if we allow him permission to go to county for a severance. I don't know how you do this. We need to check it out with legal, because I think it's against the law.
CAO, please.
No, it is a really good question. The proposal came through legal counsel as to how we might deal with this, so we didn't have to do the work ourselves. So it was legal counsel's recommendation that this is an approach that we could do.
See that report?
Yeah, that was it was verbal, but we can certainly circulate more information by way of email. But if that proposes a delay for people, then certainly open to whatever council wishes to do.
Would you like to propose a motion to defer this till we get some further information?
It really depends on the vote. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just don't see it. It's very difficult because, I'd have to declare a conflict of interest being on the council when we're asking someone to do a severance. We give that person permission. And I believe, would that be at staff level or would that be at council level? And then we have to go back, county approves it, brings it back to us, and we have to approve it. Or we don't approve it. And how does that potentially become a conflict? Sorry.
It's a conflict in my mind trying to figure.
Well, it is.
Yeah, it's circular. Response to that, or okay, Councillor Pranger, please.
Thank you. A couple things. So, would it? I'm speaking above my expertise here, I'm sure. But would it not be like a condition of sale that they do it, and that's how it works? And if it's denied, then the sale doesn't go through, that kind of thing. So I think that's how, I'm pretty sure you can do that if you want to buy someone's property. You say, hey, I'd like to sever this off your property, and you offer them. And
it has been used in farm severance sales before.
That's what I was thinking.
But it's got to come back to us for final approval. That's the problem. We can give them conditional. But anyways,
So,
let's not worry about it.
okay.
Okay.
So if are there further questions?
Yeah, sorry. So my actual question or was going to just be through the chair, but sort of around the table. Is there something we're saving this property for? It's not being used, and I just wanted to know is it valuable to us in any way to make us vote against this? Does anyone have any alternative?
There's the parkland that has been used for years and years, which we are retaining as parkland. It's not frequently used as the baseball diamond that it was or the soccer pitch that it was. It's just a different use. So it is, we're putting it on the market to see what happens, and we get to, as you say, either choose or not choose to accept it. Counselor, please.
And one of the things also, it's just not the severance. This thing would have to be rezoned for whatever their potential. So just be really careful this one. And I'm like my fellow counselor over here saying, if we want to do it ourselves, then we better perceive there's value at the end and do it ourselves and then present it to somebody as a finished product. Because this thing could fall through the cracks a few times, and then, a person buys it, gets the severance, doesn't get the rezoning. Well, I guess the person's on the hook for the money, but they could come back to haunt us. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. The council declare the western portion of lands located 543 Burvey surplus to the needs of the municipality and direct staff to proceed with the disposition through a qualified realtor, and that a provision be included that any buyer will be responsible for the application for severance of the lands in this location. It's moved and seconded, and yeah, already moved and seconded. And Councillor Stewart has asked for a recorded vote.
Yeah.
Minutes, please.
Okay, clerk, please.
Stewart,
No.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Steinhoff Gray,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Hinchberger,
Yes.
Pringer,
Yes.
and Mayor Craig.
Yes. All right, we have a notice of motion prior to the meeting regarding reconsidering the resolution at Inverhuron lots 2, 3, and 4 Albert Street West.
Is it break time?
Yeah, it's break time. Absolutely. Away we go. 5-minute bio break, 7-minute bio break.
Make sure all your mics are off.
You got some food?
Jennifer.
Food.
Where is it?
No,
I ordered 2 pizzas and I'm wondering whether.
That's a beer. I didn't give up beer.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, here we are. Welcome back again. All right, we are considering 7.1, a notice of motion regarding reconsidering a resolution about Inverhuron lots 2, 3, and 4 at Albert Street West. And just some procedural notes provided by our clerk. So a motion for reconsideration requires an affirmative vote of 6 members of council, not just a majority. And even if there was only 6 members here, all 6 would have to vote for it. So there's that procedural thing. Debate on a motion to reconsider shall be confined to reasons for or against the reconsideration. It's not about the motion. It's about why should we reconsider. And then if the resolution passes, reconsideration of the original motion will be the next order of business. So we have a resolution moved by Bill Stewart and seconded by Amanda Steinoff Gray that council reconsider resolution 1206-2302 regarding declaring the following property surplus to the needs of the municipality. Inverhuron lots 2, 3, and 4, Albert Street West, with a really long rule number. So Councillor Stewart gets Councillor Blackwell, please.
So I think through you, just reflecting on what I know of the procedural bylaw, if this is approved, is there a vote immediately after?
It's a majority vote.
So, okay.
Please.
So if this is approved, it will go back in time to right before we approved that. So there will be debate, there can be any number of things that happen from there. But basically you're going back and this motion is being put on all over again.
All right, so I would address Councillor Stewart and Steinoff Gray, and the question that comes to mind is what is new information that has come to light that we would consider reconsidering this, the result of this vote. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I guess I have to confess that I thought this property was closer to County Road 15 than Concession 2. County Road 15 has a lot more residential development. Out in Concession 2, it's really just farmland and basically bush. The real thing about this piece of property is because, looking at surplus, we never really got into what the property zoning was or anything. We just sort of said it was a surplus piece of property. And unlike maybe my fellow councillor, I always looked at surplus as potentially residential. Because of the existing planning bylaws, it's not lot 2, 3, and 4. It's called lot 2 and 3 and 4, but it's now merged together. So it's only one lot, where each one of those lots could sustain a house because they're all about probably 1 acre each. The biggest thing is that the property itself, because of our new comprehensive zoning bylaw, is an EP1 property. No, actually, it's EP1. And, EP1, it reflects a natural hazardous. It's a kind of property that probably should remain as a park more than any sort of residential. And I'm afraid that whoever decided to buy it and then would have to get an environmental assessment plan, here we go again. People, I was hoping for residential, and that's not going to be guaranteed. So I think the surplus land probably should be removed for now and maybe taken another look at by staff. But we would have to bring a lot of things to the table to make sure that this piece of property would be bought for the right sort of type of residential sort of dwellings. I think it has more value right now just to stay as really park. And that's one of the recommendations under an EP1. It's agricultural use, conservatory use, park, passive recreation. And walking along that, there is a lot of basically, deers and various other things. And it's a tough property. It's bush and heavy trees. So personally, I think that we should take another look at this. Thank you.
Councillor Steinoff Gray, any comment why we should reconsider?
And not really. Like when we originally voted on this, I was very much anew. So I support Councillor Stewart's decision to reconsider.
Any further, discussion about why we should reconsider? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Clark, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. I'm wondering if Councillor Stewart maybe could just narrow down what was the new information to you? Was it the actually I won't put words in your mouth. If you could just perhaps confirm, Councillor Stewart. Sorry, you could just confirm like what the actual new information. I know that you sort of gave a few reasons of reconsideration. Was there specifically new information?
Yeah, my new information, I actually had the opportunity to walk it. Looking at a piece of paper in council, you sort of look at it and say, fine. When I actually walked the site itself, I was a little shocked where it was, considering where I thought it was in the residential area, but also the value of the property. I looked at the value of property and where it is. I mean, there's a sewage lagoon just opposite on Concession 2. There's heavy traffic on Concession 2. There's not really the ambiance, what I thought moving forward and putting value to our community as residential. And now that we can't sell it as 2, 3, 4, someone would have to sever it again. It's one just big lot. And I just don't see the real value going to come back to us. And I would just probably park it for now and see if we really want to do the necessary changes to see if we can increase the value to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you. Through you, just a question, maybe. Yeah.
Still about reconsidering.
Yeah, it is. Just for clarity for myself, when we declared the properties surplus, does it automatically mean that we listed them for sale? Or like, can you have a surplus property and make the decision just not to sell it? Or was it when they were all surplus, it's like they're all going to
So
sell?
that is not a reason to reconsider. Like if we,
Okay.
that is a question we answer if we actually do reconsider. So that's the next step on.
Yeah, that's the bigger.
So all we're talking about is, have we learned anything new that would prompt us to say we should reconsider the decision we made before? That's broadly the question we're trying to ask here. Councillor Hinchberger, you had a question? Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Thank you through your chair. I was just going to mention, I realized that even though I'm not reconsidering what my stance was, I could elaborate on why my stance was, which might feed into why I would support a reconsideration. And I have also, it's not the same thing. Okay.
Yep.
I'm just going to provide why I would suggest a reconsideration should be based on information available. So that's fine.
If it's new information from what we talked about originally,
Yes.
which was about the land down lots 2, 3, and 4. If it's suddenly we discovered that there were alien remnants on it and we needed to discuss, we needed to do a scientific study or something. Okay, that's
I
new
hope not.
information. If we actually do consider, then your arguments support the motion itself. Okay, like it's kind of a weird gray line in there, but
Yeah.
it's the new information that we're trying to justify a reconsideration. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I'm a bit challenged because I did have a discussion with our CBO around the zoning for this property and the challenges he foresaw. This was new information to me because it was related to the potential changes that were done through the comprehensive zoning bylaw in terms of the environmental protections. So I'm struggling to make an informed decision right now because I haven't been able to have a follow-up conversation with them, and they're on vacation. So I'm not feeling confident in a vote, but that was new information to me and it has made me hesitant. I don't know, that's as wishy-washy as you can be, but I'm struggling without some of all of that information being able to really confirm it or have it discussed publicly.
Yeah, so the clerk was just confirming if we reconsider, like there's still always the options to defer and refer and all those sorts of things. Like we're not, this vote isn't, what we're talking about is not about approving the motion to dispose. All we're talking about is whether we're even going to talk about it again. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, we'll see if I can get this out without you cutting me off. But so if I guess it's appeal to my colleagues here is, can anybody tell me any new information that identifies that this land satisfies a need, present or future, for the municipality of Kincardine? I think it's that simple. That's why we declare land surplus. It's not a need. So am I hearing any, I'm looking for help because I've scanned a bit for myself. Is there any information that tells me that this land meets a present or future need for the municipality?
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I would say that since this particular property had shown up on the MLS, that there have been some constituents in different groups that have been reaching out that have some suggestions for potential use cases and how they would like to assist in leveraging this particular property. And so from a surplus perspective, I got emails about that like literally yesterday that I could forward on to you, but I haven't done anything with thus far. But I do think that there is obviously the potential for even if it's protected green space, like we talk about our green canopy as part of our bylaw. So like I'm not convinced that there isn't some function that it could serve.
Councillor Stewart, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you very much. And through you, I mean, it was identified, in the comprehensive zoning bylaw, it was identified, as an EP2.
New information?
Well, it is because it wasn't before.
Okay.
It was EP, but now it's EP2. And that's a natural heritage system. And I think that I agree with my fellow councillor. A lot of people are looking at that as possible parkland or conservation or a hiking thing. So, if we take that away and sell it, we lost that opportunity and the community's lost that opportunity. So I think there is potential that we could turn this into a natural reserve. There's a lot of deer and a lot of everything else. I think it would be more valuable leaving it the way it is. Anyways, that's my
Councillor
opinion.
Hinchberger, please.
Thank you. So given the zoning of the property, doesn't that essentially take care of the natural heritage issues regardless of whether we're the owner or not?
There's development possibilities as long as you fulfill all the studies and mitigation reports and stuff like that. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. And I think I just want to ensure that we understand what the test is, because I think we're perhaps veering off. And that's, if my understanding is correct, is simply new information that has come to light. And then there's the vote as to whether we reconsider. So I don't know that we have to go any further than that. It's just simply whether there's new information that allows us to reconsider. Am I correct in that?
Well, we were aware of the property when it was presented the first time. What the characteristics of the property were, the natural heritage, the trees, all those that was all well documented the first time we had the conversation.
Sorry, Mayor. Just to clarify, I think Councillor Stewart, if I'm correct, has said that the zoning has changed since then. I don't want to put any words, but that's what I understood. I don't recall specifically, but presumably that would be new information, or are you saying that was known at the time? I think I want just clarification on that point.
I am not able at this point, whether it was natural hazard or whether it was EP 1 or 2, still indicates to me that there are necessary things that need to be done before any development could happen. Specifically, I can't answer the question. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I can understand where you're coming from. However, the fact that we went from a 1-tier to a 2-tier EP system in our area does change things quite a bit. So in an EP1, like that's hazard land, unless you can prove with engineering that there actually is no hazard land and it's zoned improperly and you can overcome any tiny hazard that's on there, you can't build on there. Natural heritage, the rules say that there is no development permitted unless it's minor and supports the permitted uses, which is like parks and recreational use. So it is different. You couldn't even on a regular EP, like on EP1, you aren't even supposed to put up supplementary buildings to support park. Whereas now that it's EP2, we have that option. So it is different. So I wasn't convinced, but now that I've been told that the zoning changed after we considered this, I actually do think that warrants reconsideration.
So we have a notice of motion before us, moved and seconded that we reconsider resolution 1206-23-2 regarding declaring the following property surplus to the needs of the municipality. Inverheurance lots 2, 3, and 4, Albert West, roll number long.
Yeah.
Starts
with the 4.
All in favor of reconsidering the motion, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they carried. Okay. All right. So here's the motion that we are addressing right now. It is moved by Bill Stewart and seconded by Mike Hinchberger. Still in favor of allowing your name to stand as part of this motion?
He won't. No, I won't be. I'll be removing my name.
Okay.
You're going back.
Okay, so here's the motion that before it was even moved and seconded. So here's the motion that is on the floor for discussion. We need a mover and seconder that the properties on Inverhuron lots 2, 3, and 4 West Albert West Rule 410826000412102 be declared surplus to the needs of the municipality, and that council direct staff to commence the process of disposal per policy administration 03 sale and disposition of land policy. Need a mover and seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Hinchberger and Councillor Williams. Discussion. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
I'm not sure really I have much to add there. I'm using a literal interpretation about whether this meets a need for the municipality and the present and the future. And I don't see how a potential future use necessarily requires the municipality to be involved, and therefore it's surplus.
Councillor Williams? Comment? Don't have to, I'm just offering. Anyone else? Councillor Blackwell?
I'm just going to reiterate without making a motion at this time that I would like to be able to speak with the CPO about the zoning on this and potential. Yeah, I'm just going to say that.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, we have a lot of parklands out there. Most of them are grass, and we hire somebody to cut the grass and maintain them and everything. I don't see why we can't start to use these properties as a natural park. The maintenance is really low. You don't even have to send staff out there. Basically, it's well looked after itself. And maybe it's time that we sort of branch out and say, for the Inverhuron community and the Tiverton community, whatever other community, that this one becomes a natural park and leave it the way it is. And there's huge value for that. So I would be in favor of taking this off the surplus, whatever we have, and just leave it the way it is and make it a natural park. Thank you.
Councillor Stanoff, Gray, please.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I agree with Councillor Stewart. I know. And the reason I say that is I understand the challenge that Councillor Hinchberger has brought forward and what use is it necessarily to us. But we have lots of things that we maintain as assets because of the potential future use that doesn't necessarily have an inert use case now. With this particular location and the limitations on it and the proximity it has to another natural preserve. Like we had a whole citizen donated parcel of land in very close proximity to this that was, I believe, donated to the, and I'm looking at it, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but the Mano Eki Land Trust. So, you know, there's obviously a huge appetite in our community towards conservation. We've seen it. We've seen it through lots of efforts, the tree planters, all the other different groups that come to us with these concerns about how we protect those natural heritage features. And I think that as a municipality, this offers the opportunity to steward it. So that would be the end of my comments.
Councillor Prenger, please.
I'm sorry, but I cannot recollect. How big is this lot that we're talking about?
2.3.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Can I make a motion to defer?
Can, if you'd like to.
I'd like to make a motion to defer to the first meeting in September, please.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Prenger. There's no discussion on the deferral. All in favor of the deferral? And that's carried. Deferred. Notice of motion at the meeting. Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I'd like to provide notice that whereas the Council of the Municipality of Kincardine supports the Blue Water District School Board expediting the construction of the proposed senior school in a new location within the municipality. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to advocate as required with the Blue Water District School Board and the Province of Ontario regarding the building of the proposed new senior school. And that Council directs staff to prioritize this development and any required applications submitted to the municipality to support this development. And further, that this motion be included in the new Council Priority Resolution Matrix with an expected completion date of October 26, 2026.
So that'll be discussed at the next council meeting.
And a copy of that has been provided to our clerk.
Okay. Consideration of bylaws. So we need a mover and seconder that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, third time finally passed the 13th of August 2025. The amendment zoning bylaw 2025-052 holding removal bylaw. So it's a zoning bylaw 2025-52, which is being removed by bylaw 2025-100. Amendment zoning bylaw 2025-52 holding removal, which is amended by bylaw 2025-101. The Knox Presbyterian Church Agreement bylaw 2025-102, and the Huron-Kinloss Joint Recreation Cost Sharing Agreement 2025 bylaw 2025-103. And I'm going to recommend that we do two separate motions on this because we had a recorded vote on that last one, and we afford council members opportunity to vote it for or against. So we need a mover and seconder to include the two zoning amendments and the Knox Presbyterian Church Agreement. Moved by Councillors Kavanagh and Steinhoff Gray. All in favor? And that's carried. We also need a mover and seconder that the following bylaw, Huron-Kinloss Joint Recreation Cost Sharing Agreement bylaw, be hereby read first, second, third time, finally passed today as well. Moved by Councillor Blackwell and Deputy Mayor Clark. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So now we move on to the consent agenda. Once again, considered routine or enacted in one motion unless a councillor would like to withdraw one or more from the agenda for consideration either tonight or at a subsequent meeting. Any councillors have anything you want to identify? Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Thank you. Through you, I would like to identify under the 8.1, I believe, consent agenda. Alpha, actually, no, it isn't. It's Bravo. Bravo. Huron-Kinloss Fire Agreement, Fire Prevention 2025-02. I'm sorry.
For comment this evening or subsequent
I
or?
was happy to comment this evening, but this meeting's gone pretty long. Do you want to comment now? I had a few clarifying questions around it that I'd happily ask the CAO, and it sounds like one of my fellow councilors was also interested in this one. So when I was looking at the data that was provided in this report, if you look at 2025 year to date, we've responded to 9 calls versus the 12 calls in 2024 versus 2, 21 calls in 2023 versus 3, 17 calls in 2022 versus 4, and another 15 in 2021 as opposed to 3. And I actually think fire safety is super important. Like, being the Ward 3 councillor, I understand how nervous people would be if we didn't have the Paisley Agreement in place for those folks that live far closer to Paisley, yet fall under our jurisdiction. But I believe there is a certain amount that we provide to the Paisley Fire Department for doing that. So I guess my question is there an in-kind agreement with Huron-Kinloss? Is this just a gentleman's agreement between 2 parallel municipalities?
So, yeah, what the report is basically outlining is that the fire chief has been reviewing the current responses outside of and having other communities respond within, as you've noted. And typically in a situation where the expectation is we are going to be the responder, then you are paying a service fee as opposed to either mutual aid or automatic aid, because it's not really what those types of agreements are for. So this is letting council know we're investigating that, having the conversations at a staff level to say we think that perhaps we should be looking at some kind of a service agreement similar to what we have with Aaron Elderslie.
I would argue these numbers support a service level agreement similar to what we do with Aaron Elderslie, just knowing that, like, in this case, it's not even the assumption that they need our support. It's very evident from the numbers. So I would love for this to come back with a staff report.
I believe that's already in the works. Yep, absolutely. Anything else from any council members? Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you. I wanted to pull 8.1 Delta India, just ask a question about that. Invitation to join the Adapting to Coastal Hazards Municipal Leaders Working Group. I didn't see anything from staff or any notice that we're going to appoint someone to join that group. I was just wondering if there's intention to do that, and if not, then why not?
There had been a invitation extended to council members to take part in that, and we did get a response from Councillor Stewart that he has already joined. I'm sorry that I did not communicate that to the rest of council, but it's already joined up.
Did it, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, anything else? Councillor Blackwell, please.
I'm going to mess up the numbering, but I'm looking at the Municipality of Tweed resolution around producer responsibility for blue boxes. I'm trying to recall whether we have supported a motion similar asking for the count or the province to actually consider expanding beyond just residential. And if not, that may be something I'd like to bring forward in a future meeting, but I can chat with the clerk about that if we haven't already supported something.
Okay, so will you be in contact with the clerk then? Okay, All right. Seeing nothing else, we need a mover and seconder that council approve the recommendations contained in the consent agenda dated August 13, 2025, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Moved by Councillors Hinchberger and Deputy Mayor Clark. All in favor? That's carried. Member of Council, general announcements. Deputy Mayor, please.
October 25th is the Afro-Caribbean Youth Awards, and nominations are currently open for the next few weeks.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you. And through the chair, just appraising our residents that starting this Sunday to Wednesday is the Giant Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference, in which we will be attending to represent. And I know that yourself, our CAO, as well as Councillor Pranger, Councillor Blackwell, myself, and Councillor Steinhoff Gray will all be attending to lobby on behalf of our residents to the province.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
No comments today, but I hope we do a good job.
Councillor Williams.
No comments.
Councillor Blackwell.
Yesterday was a special day. It was International Youth Day, and to celebrate and to hear more from local youth in our community, I'm helping the Well Community Collective at the Kincardine Hub to host free pizza and ice cream sundaes this Friday from 12 till 2. So hoping lots of folks come out for that.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you very much. It's been a really busy summer, all the events and everything. So I hope my fellow councillors will take a little time out and enjoy themselves, because I don't know, but the summer's coming to an end and they announced at CNE coming. So enjoy the summer, what's ever left.
Councillor Pranger, please.
No comments.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I know it's a bit out of our jurisdiction and not everybody gets excited at watching road construction go on, but it's a pleasure to watch the coming completion of the changed intersection at Kincardine Avenue and Highway 21 and the lights going in there. And equally as well, you can see that they're moved up the road now and are beginning to work on Russell Street. This is a long needed change by the Ministry of Transportation to improve safety along that corridor. There's going to be some disruption here, and I think it's very unlikely they finish that before the school year begins. So we're going to have to do our best to work our way around this and keep an eye on the prize, which is a better corridor along 21 through Kincardine. Thanks.
It's either construction or winter, one or the other. So CAO, anything?
Yes, Davidson Center, the 50th anniversary hockey game is coming up. The game day, Saturday, September the 20th, 7 p.m. The Kincardine Bulldogs alumni versus the Toronto Maple Leaf alumni. So you've got some real legends that are going to be there. Wendell Clark and another one who I don't even know him. So Rick Vive.
Rick Vive.
They're going to be there.
Pass the list over.
Yes. Yes. Only 16 VIP tickets remaining. Those include the pregame meet and greet with the Leafs alumni and the VIP seating, but there are also general admission tickets available, and that's available online or in person at the Davidson Center. The Hindu Culture Open House is happening on Saturday, August the 16th, this weekend at Victoria Park from 2:30 to 6 p.m. So if you come out, you have the opportunity to learn some more about Hindu culture and participate in interactive activities, food, and performances with music and dance. We also have coming up the following weekend, so just in case your summer wasn't busy, Marine Heritage Festival and the 34th annual gathering of the band on Saturday, August the 23rd. Details are on the municipality's website for all of that.
Oh, we're gonna need.
The automatic hour of adjournment, do we extend till 8:30 as the recommendation?
I'd like to bring forward a motion to extend our adjournment time to 8:30.
Do you want to second that, Bill?
I'll second that.
All in favor? And that's carried.
Oh, glad.
All right, we need a mover and seconder that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider closed session minutes dated July 23rd, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality regarding regional economic development competition, and proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, specifically Birchwood Avenue, Block 14. Further, the council returned to regular open meeting upon completion.